It's time for the Luke Howard Show, and guess what? It's live! Thank you very much, thank you! I love that audience, it's absolutely brilliant. Morning, it is Monday the 4th of May, which was otherwise known as a bank holiday, but today they've had to cancel it because of what's happening on Friday, because this Friday is VE Day, so it's a very special VE Day this Friday, so they've had to cancel it for Monday to make it for this Friday. So our VE Day, I must say, is this Friday, just to let you all know. It's a brand new week on the one and the only show, the Luke Howard Show, and our VE Day special is not live, it's recorded and shall go out around about 10 a.m. But on the show today, we've got lots of great stories to talk about and lots of great music to play as well. And we're also going to be, telling you what National Day is today. And I'm also going to be telling you what's on the telly tonight. Did you see Coronation Street the other night? I'm going to be talking about that in a bit. And of course, we are going to be talking about EastEnders as well. Whitney Run, apparently, they're saying. A lot of Whitney's gone missing, hasn't she? So we'll be talking about that. Okay, so we're going to start off by talking about Boris Johnson. Yes, we have to talk about Boris Johnson, of course, to kickstart the week. So, he's been advertising workplaces to have a floor markings to ensure that people are 2 metres apart. It has been working, but a lot of people have been doing it, a lot of people haven't been doing it, and I'm sure you know about it as well. So it's staggered around arrival times and breaks fever people in lifts and regular deep cleaning on part of an 11-point COVID safety plan. Now, the government has set a target of May the 26th, the day after the the bank holiday Monday, to ensure, which is in about 2 weeks' time from today, ensure that people are back to work. I think it's 2 weeks' time. Is it 2 weeks? Is it? It's 3 weeks, isn't it? It's 3 weeks' time. So, details will be announced by Prime Minister Boris Johnson next week. So that's, this week. Yeah, this week. Sorry, I read it wrong. This week they're going to announce what's going to be going on, and we'll keep you updated as well. And it's also emerged out the other night that primary schools may open as soon as the 1st of June. Would you believe? They may start going back on the 1st of June. But who knows? It could be then, it could be September, but they're now saying the 1st of June. And Boris Johnson is hoping to put teachers on 3 weeks' notice to welcome all pupils back. Their younger children are being selected first, so their early years development is not impaired, to help parents get back to work. Now, Whitehall officials are looking at measures such as temporary limits on classes sizes, while responding nursery schools also remains under decision. Now, restarting secondary schools is keen to not as proceeding as pupils can work online, of course, and do not require as much attention from teachers. Now, BBC Bitesize is a very good example about of what's going on at the moment. If you want to work online, I suggest BBC Bitesize is a very good company to use. So it comes to figures that showed that 621 more coronavirus deaths the other day, bringing the total to 28,131 people. Now, Robert Jenrick described as it's heartbreaking, of course, and the number in hospitals with coronavirus has dropped 13% in the past week to 14.695, and for a second day in the row, the government has been hit its virus testing target, 105,937 on Friday last week. Now, meanwhile, a poll has shown people are nervous about leaving their homes, which is true, because we're all nervous about leaving our homes, aren't we? I mean, our family, everyone is. It's hard to say what's going on, isn't it? It's very, very hard. So, we've all been asked how we would feel, and the government began, easing restrictions in May. 59% of 1,500 questions say. Lots of people have been working from home. I know a lot of radio presenters have been working from home, but I work from home myself anyway. I mean, I do this I do it with the radio show. I do it from home all the time anyway. So it's not really a change for me, really. But they've also been asking how we all feel, and they've all been questioned, and how they will not feel comfortable going out and will not resume normal life in June. Now, the Redfield and Wilton strategies poll showed that 56% were, confident of how the government has handled the crisis and 69% trusted the scientific advice. Now, Mr. Jenrick said that we are going to think carefully about how we, approach the next stage of the virus, and again, we will be guided to medical opinion. Now, we will be taking a careful, curious approach to that, because the, overriding objective is to ensure that the rate of transmission is below 1, and that we build to 1 bedroom to protect the NHS and ensure that it doesn't get overwhelmed by a second peak. Now, Deputy Chief Medical Officer Jenny Harris has said that people need very clear messaging to understand when they can come out and be assured when it is safe. So British Secretary Alok Sharma has asked civil servants to draw up plans to get the economy moving again and allow people back to their workplaces safely. He has consulted businesses and union leaders as well as the science and medical communities, and wants a national consensus on safest ways of working. So specific guidance for different types of workplace, such as offices, shops, outdoor sites, salons and factories, will be published shortly. Other sectors like, theatres, sports grounds, pubs, cafes and clubs, of course, will probably have to wait longer until the risk of the second coronavirus wave has, diminished. Now, the plans are amid at kick-starting the economy and getting more people among again, while shielding everyone from another wave of this epidemic businesses, and will be allowed to reopen only when scientific advice suggests it is safe. So Boris Johnson has revealed that coronavirus doctors had made preparations to announce his death. So the Prime Minister described his life and death struggle after being taken to London's St Thomas's Hospital. This is just a little bit of a recap, by the way, a little recap, as he failed to shake off the infection. So for 2 weeks, the 55-year-old battled the virus in hospital, and it had been, more touch and go than the public may have realised. He said that it became serious when he was taken to intensive care, and he hooked up a monitress and given litres and litres of oxygen to keep his home alive. So he told a Sunday newspaper it was a tough moment, and I won't delay it, he said. They had a tragedy to death, he said, and as it says on my script, and he won't deny it, and is a type of seriousness. And he said, I was not particularly in brilliant shape, and I was aware that there were contingency plans in place. Now, the doctors had all sorts of, agreements and arrangements for what to do, and if things, went badly wrong. So he described how his health had plummeted within days of being admitted to hospital, and within days of being admitted into hospital, and when medics, but his, chances is to be being in temperature 50-50, and they began to prepare for this, worst, for the worst, of course. They began to prepare for the worst, and I say that again, for the worst. So, for 2 weeks, he fought against the virus, and, his recovery was thanks in some wonderful people who looked after him, and he wanted to thank all the NHS workers for the help, and nursing as well, that made it, and they really did it, and they made a huge difference. So he added that he thought of what might have been, not seeing the birth of his new son, because the day when he got back, as soon as he got back in the office, he got told to leave again, because his wife was pregnant, of course. So he's off now for 2 weeks, maternity, and then he shall be back in, I think, 10 days' time. Am I right? Is it 10 days he goes back, isn't it? It is 10 days. It's 10 days he goes back. So good luck to Boris Johnson and his wife, of course. So, okay, let's move on now, because protests in America and parties in Spain and Italy as countries change their rules. So, protests have been breaking, not in the US and Germany, over lockdown restrictions, as the number of coronavirus deaths climbs to 243,000 globally, with, altogether, if you add that together, that's 3.4 million people reported to have been infected. So in the US, which has the highest death toll of 66,000, campaigners demanding that businesses be allowed to reopen and gathered outside Los Angeles City Hall. So protesters also have invaded closed beaches and accompanied the lawn outside California's state capital, San Clemente, where the virus had claimed the lives of 2,073 in the Golden State. So crowds gathered in Lillian's in the Michigan on Friday, with protests planned yesterday in the capitals of Kentucky, Oregon and Florida. Around half of the states, including Texas, have started reopening businesses, parks and golf courses in California. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom, he hinted that easing the recommendations was days away. So, however, in New York, it was revealed that 98 residents have died in one care home after suffering coronavirus symptoms. Now, Mayor Bill de Blasio said the number of deaths of the 705-bed Isabel Glacial Center in Washington Heights, Manhattan was absolutely horrifying. New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo revealed that 1 in 5 of the example 15,000 people tested positive for COVID-19. Antibiotics meaning that, and as COVID-19 antibiotics, and it had already had the virus as strict lockdown remained in force as 299 new deaths were recorded, taking the state's toll to 24,368, as Robert Peston would say, who is a famous journalist and politician, of course. So, in Germany, where some states are starting to relax restrictions, a TV crew and police officers were attacked during a protest of around 1,000 people in Berlin's Kreuzberg. But in Spain, joggers, cyclists and skateboarders and walkers celebrated being allowed to exercise outdoors for the first time in 7 weeks. So from tomorrow, from Tuesday, or is it Monday? From today. From today, the wearing of face masks on public transport in Spain will be compulsory. In Italy, people will be able to visit relatives from today, but only in small numbers. Parks, factories and building sites will also be allowed to reopen. And somebody else, Kate Andrews, is saying that it is time to get creative to protect the economy. So the Prime Minister is back in action. Testing has been ramped up dramatically and will finally see the government's roadmap out of lockdown this week. But despite the glimpse of good news, it's impossible to imagine a time after coronavirus. We will be living with the virus for months, or depending on the development of treatments and vaccines, and the cost of all this will have long-lasting implications. The Treasury thought essential emergency package and the Flementing scheme would be taken up by roughly 10% of businesses, but the British Chamber at Commerce says that more than 70% have flourished some, if not all, of their workforce, and the Treasury plans is to borrow 180 billion to get us through the next 3 months alone, and there's no way of knowing the total cost of the coronavirus tragedy yet, but it will. So now is the time to get creative. We're in uncharted territory, and new financial worries are requiring new policy answers. And if we're lucky, though, this will be on one-off spending spree that was necessary to keep businesses and workers afloat. So we'll leave it one day because we've got one more story to talk about now. Because I want to talk about Richard Madeley and Judy Finningham. Now, they were one of the most famous and long-lasting marriages in showbiz. But okay, Richard Madeley and his wife Judy Finningham reckons that the English government plans to keep over 70s locked down for the foreseeable future and added lear couples apart. The presenters who have been married together for a long time, 34 years, or is it 70? No, hang on, no. As Judy Finningham, 71 for 34 years, and believes that Health Secretary Matt Hancock's stay indoors for 12 weeks is deeply diverse. Diverse. He says that because I am 63 and would mean. Richard has said this. Richard Madeley has said, because I am 63 and would mean Judy and I couldn't go out together. It's ludicrous. But hold on, what about all the other people with underlying health issues? Someone who is 30 years old with kidney problems or a stoma, and obviously we don't know wine yet. But what about the BAME, the banned Black, Asian and military ethnic community, where COVID-19 appears to be more prevalent? What do you say there? People of colour, they're at higher risk, so have to stay at home too, he said. That's a bit don't know. But he said, I think it's profoundly unfair. You can't just target one of at risk group, and if you do, just then you have to target all of